Welcome to the Decide to Move podcast, helping entrepreneurs like you make smart, pivotal shifts in your life and business. Tune in each episode for inspiring stories from brilliant business minds and trailblazers to find out how they made their big moves and how you can too. Now here's your host, author, speaker, business strategist, CEO, and founder of Decide to Move, Monica M. Bijou.
Hello, everyone. I am super excited to have you back for another episode of Decide to Move. And today I have with me an amazing guest. As I always say, my guests are amazing because that's why they're on my show. So today I have Jill Lublin. She is an international speaker on the topics of radical influence, publicity, networking, kindness, and referrals. And in fact, she's an author of 4 best-selling books, including Get Noticed, Get Referrals. And if you can look behind her, she actually has her books with her. So for those that are catching this via video, you'll be able to actually see the cover of the books. So when you go get them, you'll make sure that you have the correct one. She's also a co-author of Guerrilla Publicity and Networking Magic. Her latest book, Profit of Kindness, went #1 in 4 categories. Jill is a master strategist on how to position your business for more profitability and more visibility. And you guys that know me know that I'm all about visibility because that's the way that you get known, which will help bring in your profits. And Jill is here to teach us all about that. She's a CEO of a strategic consulting firm and has over 25 years experience working with over 100,000 people, plus national and international media. Jill teaches a virtual publicity crash course, which we're going to learn a lot about today, and consults and speaks all over the world. She also helps authors to create book deals with major publishers and agents, as well as obtain foreign rights deal. Without further ado, help me welcome Jill today. Hi, Jill. How are you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. I'm so glad that we connected. And, I'm super interested in hearing all about your course and hearing about you. But before we get started, can you tell our listeners and those that are viewing where you're currently living and about your journey?
Thank you. So I am actually in Northern California, and my journey to the world of publicity began, as many of ours does, through circuitous and unusual circumstances. I was in law school, and I dropped out of law school because law school was not what I thought it would be for me, and ended up in the music business, which much more suited me. It was much more fun, creative, and definitely more in line with who I am. So that path was a wonderful path because it actually started me in the whole world of publicity, guerrilla publicity in particular, because I worked at independent record labels, had to figure out great ways to get the word out about our underfunded artists because we had no money, unlike my colleagues at the big record companies. We were operating on small budgets. We were an independent record label, and it was a blast figuring out how to make name recognition out of people. We didn't have big budgets, so that's really where I learned my PR skills, and it just kind of kept going, and ended up opening up my own PR agency, and then I close that to now do my virtual publicity courses and serve people much more affordably, quickly, simply, and get it done. That's my thing. Let's get it done.
Yeah, most definitely. So what made you decide to do law in the first place and then decide that it's not for you? What was it that was the driving force behind going to law school?
Well, it's one of those things. I actually always wanted to be an attorney because that's all I knew, right? I didn't understand there's so many other possibilities. And in my mind, actually from my family, who's very blue collar, I was excited and proud to be the first college graduate. And I thought, well, I'm going to go on to law school. And, I figured being an attorney would help me to really make a difference for people and to do the right things. And then I got to law school, and for me and my mind, it was very linear, and my mind's kind of creative and butterfly-like, and it was just hard for me. And actually, here's the other thing. I got sick 5 times that year. I got actually bronchitis. I figured that was God's way of telling me, you ought to do something else. And that's good, So sometimes you're just taken on your path one way or another, right? That, I'm sure.
Exactly. And often people don't get the message. It comes subtle, and then after a while it starts becoming more like, I said hello. This is not what you're supposed to do. So I love the fact that, and you know what's really interesting for me is the fact that you add kindness in there, especially even surrounding networking, because now that we are going from being live in person, it's easy to see people, talk to people, but being online, I should say offline, but now being online is a total different beast. It requires different skill sets and different ways of being public. But how do you add the kindness part to networking? Why do you feel that was so important to include in your networking push?
Well, yeah, thank you. So, it's interesting. And one day I looked at all my books and I'm like, okay, publicity and networking and referrals. Well, if you're kind, if you've got kindness as part of your who you are, guess what? You get better publicity, you get more referrals, and you have better networking experiences. That's just what I found true. But the book was actually inspired by my 85-year-old friend who said a line to me one time just from her heart. She said, you are so kind. I wish other people would do this. In fact, she says, I think we need a new currency, the currency of kindness. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, Monica, I wasn't planning on writing another book, These things just sometimes fall in your lap. And next thing I know, my publisher said, yes, we'd like to do this. And it all happens so quickly because, books usually take a little more time, that I thought that this was just a sign that this was supposed to be happening, and beautifully done and planted. It wasn't like I was thinking about that. But now that I've done the book, and for me, I'm doing now kindness circles. I actually am going to have a kindness summit. I really want to make something next out of this and really have it as a movement, so that, more than ever in our world, we know we need kindness. And things are running rampant, a little crazy. And I think the kindness word helps stabilize and support businesses and gives people some hope. And that's important.
Yeah, most definitely. I absolutely love that, because words that we normally take for granted, like kindness and treating people the way you want to be treated, we're examples of our environment. If we don't know what that really looks like, how do we actually show what kindness looks like if we've never experienced kindness ourselves? And so oftentimes we take little small things for granted and don't think it's a big deal, where somebody would be like, why would you write a book about kindness? But for me, when I saw the names of your book, it really resonated, because that is such a huge thing that many people miss. And I found that when I'm nice to people, they're like, well, what's your ulterior motive? Like, what do you want? And I'm like, huh? Like, I mean, it shocks me that people are not used to people just being genuinely nice without any intention whatsoever. Have
Yeah,
you
it
found
is.
the same thing?
Absolutely. So, I believe in intentionality, and I think that's important. You can be very purposeful. You can even have firm boundaries and be kind, right? And so I'm not saying, roll people over with Pollyanna-ness or sweetly sickness, sweetly nicely, too nicey nice kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying be nice, play nice. I went to Ace Hardware the other day, and it said, we play nice at Ace. Be kind. I'm like, yeah, Ace Hardware, corporate slogan, right? I thought that was super. So kindness has really worked its way into the vocabulary. Honda Cars did a huge campaign on kindness. I saw Dignity Health, a huge, they did a human kindness campaign on buses in San Francisco. They're a huge healthcare organization. So it has hit the marketplace. Kindness is important. And realistically, what I have seen from a publicity standpoint is kind companies get more publicity, make more money. The CEOs are happier, the customers are happier, the employees are happier. Therefore, the whole company really does better. I mean, we measured it every single time with all the companies that I consistently interviewed. That was the consistent message. I thought that was great.
Yeah, most definitely. And that kind of rolls us right into what you want to talk to us about today, is how to stay visible in troubling times. So, of course, kindness is one of those ways, but go into details of telling us, how can someone stay visible, especially in a time like this?
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
Okay, so here's the good news. Times like these bring about new opportunities. So for instance, if I'm a number of my coaches who I work with, if they're African American, I'm having them talking about Black Lives Matter. That's it, right? We dropped everything else. And their voices are being heard in that arena right now. And that's perfect, even if it's not exactly what they speak about, coach about, write about, even in small business about. That's one example. Another is like, you've got to watch what are the opportunities right now. So for instance, with all the COVID-19, my health coaches are talking about how to stay healthy in today's time. A chiropractor I'm working with, same thing. A relationship expert, we were talking about how to have great relationships. Now I made her into the quarantine Cupid, right? So where can you be looking to see? I call it use everything you've got, right? And use everything you've got. So sometimes it may be exactly what you're talking about, what your business is about, and sometimes it's not. So for example, let me share with you, I have done, let's see, 10, approximately, close to 10 radio interviews in major markets. I'm talking 50,000 watt terrestrial, they're called radio stations, in Houston, in Louisville, in Cincinnati, in Columbus, and so on and so forth. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben's and their change in branding. I'm talking about the Dixie Chicks dropping the name Dixie, which I thought was interesting. I'm talking about whatever I'm talking about related to all the things that are happening right now. Why am I talking about branding? Well, you might think, Jill, you're a publicity expert. Yes, and publicity is branding. Branding is publicity, how people see you. So me talking about Uncle Ben's and Aunt Jemima is appropriate. And what's super cool, and this is what I really want people to hear, I call it use everything you've got. So even though I'm a publicity expert, they're asking me branding questions, I can lead it back. And then they, at the end of the interview, always say, hey, you're listening to Jill Lublin. She's a publicity expert. Go visit her website. And they all give it out, right? The other thing is you've got to be planting seeds ahead for success. So I want everybody here thinking about what's happening 3, 6, and 9 months ahead, as well as what's happening right now. So one of my business consultant clients, she called me up. She goes, Jill, I got a problem. I go, what? She goes, I don't know math. And my son, he needs me to do this new math, and I have no idea how to do it or how to be, good to him, how to instruct him properly. I don't even know what new math is. She was so funny. She goes, I'm a business consultant. That's what I know. So I thought, well, that's a great story. How many mothers feel this right now? They got to run a business. They got to raise their kids. They've got to school them, homeschool them. They've got to, be patient through everything that's going on and all the changes that we now have with us. My niece, she works for, she's a mortgage broker for a loan company, big loan company. And, she's so funny. She goes, yeah, we're all on the line and our kids are running back and forth. And, meanwhile, their company expects them to be on time, on calls, and working full time. And she's got a 2-year-old, running behind her. So it is what is. And I think these are interesting times for new stories, right? And so that's the point, is create new stories and use everything you've got, your own story, your ethnicity, your gender, your, whatever's appropriate, and keep your PR antennas up. These are PR antennas. Keep your PR antennas up and listen for what are the stories going on for right now that you can be part of.
Well, that's great information. I mean, honestly, Jill, because that's something that I tell people all the time as a best-selling author myself. People often ask that magical question like, well, I don't even know what to write. I don't know what to say. Or what if I'm not a therapist? What if I'm not certified? You're certified on your life. You use your own experiences and things that you've been through to tell your story. Otherwise, someone's going to tell it for you. So do you prefer someone else to tell your story or you to tell your story, and getting yourself out there and being authentic? And I know that you have very short of time, but I would love for you to talk a little bit about authenticity and how important that is when it comes to publicity.
Yes. Well, in these times in particular, I just think you got to drop the masks. Now, do you need to be professional? Yes. I mean, I'm quite professional in all my dealings, but there'll be moments, where something will show up, or I'll tell a story, and might share something in my story, or I encourage, as well as encouraging my own clients, share something in your story that might be more vulnerable, that might hit, I like to say, get them in the heart and the gut, right? Because these are different times, and what maybe worked even 3 months ago and 6 months ago and a year ago does not quite work the same. So one thing I'm really big on, if I had to like raise a flag, it would be the flag of your message. And I think that what's so key and so important for people is to find their message that's resonant. So your message needs to resonate for you. It needs to feel good to you. You need to be able to speak it well. That doesn't mean you're not occasionally afraid of what to say and how to say it, right? So, I mean, this is one of my skill sets, is to help many people to figure out a right message and how to say it in a way that's appropriate for you, right? Because here's what I notice. When people have a great message, your confidence goes way up. You're able to quickly and easily and effectively communicate your message. And I think that's really important, as to quickly and easily communicate your message in a way that gives people real solutions, because I want people to give real solutions, good connections, and be a solution provider, right? And in today's world, we need that. Sometimes we just need a certain voice, and a certain voice that resonates. So Black Lives Matter, is a great example of that. Being a homeschooler is a great example of that. Being a, business owner turned teacher, all of a sudden, is an example of that. Well, how do you communicate in quarantine, and relationships, and how those have changed? So my relationship expert, she wrote a self-published book on relationships. Yeah, I'm having her talk about how do you communicate effectively in today's times. And so that's what I really, I'm excited about this, in the sense that I think there are a lot of opportunities right now to use everything you've got, to take your stories and put it into media in ways that are relevant and simple, and then lead back to more. Like sometimes this is the thing, Monica, I don't want people getting too attached to what they do, because sometimes what you do is actually not going to get you in the media, but it could be who you are. It could be your beliefs. It could be your parenting. It could be your parents. I don't know. It could be all kinds of things. And then you want to look at, let's say, holidays and months of the year. Like a woman I have, she's a breast cancer survivor. Great. She's a stress coach. Why is she a stress coach? Well, she got breast cancer. Her husband leaves her. Couldn't believe that. And so just all this stuff, right? In the middle of, you can imagine, a pretty serious illness, and stage 4 yet. I mean, the good news is she recovered. She dealt with her stress. Now she's a stress coach. And then she wrote a book. I actually helped her get a book done. And then she actually got in Cosmopolitan magazine. Now, all of this happened because of her own story. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. People want to hear this. COVID-19 is very stressful. She's back out again. How do you deal with stress in stressful times? So keep adjusting your message and make it, be willing to be flexible. That's really important.
Most definitely. I really love everything that you said. And the information that you're providing is because you are a publicity coach, but you're also doing a course right now to help other people learn about publicity and how to get out there as well. Do you have time to share information about that?
Absolutely. So here's the thing, in pandemic times, I think all of us, have to do things that are supportive and helpful for others. So what I did was I created my virtual publicity course online, on Zoom, interactive with me. So, because I used to do them live in cities and go around the country and do these. Now, everybody can come into the Zoom room and we can get your publicity done simply, easily, and effectively. So actually, everybody who works with me in the publicity course, we do 3 documents, like get them done. We don't just talk about stuff, because I'm a get it done kind of girl. And people also have templates that you can leave with so that you can use them for any other project you're working on. And that is super. Most importantly, I'm going to tell you everything that most PR people will never tell you. And we're getting it done. And it's live, interactive with me in a small group. So how you can register is go to publicitycrashcourse.com and enter the code Stay Visible, because I have fabulous pandemic pricing. I've lowered it incredibly to make this super affordable for all. I don't know if you want me to tell them how much or not, but
nope, I'm going to put it all in the show notes,
perfect.
And they can actually go to the site and we can go from there.
Perfect.
And then I understand that you actually have a gift for all those that are listening as well as viewing this via video.
Absolutely. So go for the gift, jilllublin.com/publicity. And it's another live, interactive, free publicity webinar. Not obviously as detailed as the whole course, but it is, I think, a great way for you to get involved and join up and learn some more great publicity tips.
Great. And then what are some ways, I know your website is jilllublin.com as well. And then are you the same thing on all the your social media platforms?
Absolutely. Absolutely. People can connect all over with that too.
And that's Lublin, Lublin. And I'm going to make sure everything is in the show notes. And thank you so much, Jill, for joining me today. And all my listeners and followers, viewers, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Decide to Move, as well as having Jill with me as she's teaching you how to stay visible in trying times. I recommend that you definitely go look at the webinar, get your download, go join her course, so that way you can definitely learn how to get back out there as we're making pivotal shifts in our life as well as our business. Thanks so much again, Jill, for being with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Decide to Move podcast with Monica M. Bijou. If you are ready to make a pivotal shift and take your destined position in the world, then schedule a free discovery call by going to www.decidetomove.com. For all links mentioned in today's show and to listen to previous episodes, go to www.decidetomovepodcast.com. And remember, we've all been delivered rotten fruit in our past. We can choose to chew on the rotten fruit trying to convince ourselves it's what we want, or we can become the fruits of our labor and create an incredible, fulfilling, and inspiring life and business out of it. You have what it takes to create the life you want.